Welcome to another episode of GovTech Today. I'm Russell Lowry.
And I'm Jen Seha.
And together we try and bridge the gap between .com and .gov. With us today, we have a special guest, Director Steve Gordon over at the DMV. They've been doing some amazing things, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we jump into that, a lot of our listeners have .gov email addresses, and others have .com email addresses that interact with .gov. You've made the leap between .com and .gov. Can you talk a little bit about your decision-making process? How was that for you? What was what were you doing in the private sector, and why'd you make the leap to the public sector?
Well, great question. And, the answer to the last question first is, I was in a semi-retired state. My wife was reading the San Jose Mercury News at our house in San Jose, and there was an article that said, essentially, hate the DMV, you could run it. I didn't hate the DMV, but she said, you look like you're underutilized. And this job, as it was described in a sentence or two, seemed like it was something that fit my background. She said, you ought to take a look at it. But prior to that, I had spent about 20 years at Cisco Systems, worked in the life sciences business for a while at Becton Dickinson, and had done some light consulting here and there. That was just fun stuff for me. And so if it wasn't for that article, and if it wasn't for my wife's kind of encouragement, I wouldn't have sent in an application. I think if you listen to the governor's announcement when I was announced, first, you never want to follow a better speaker. But, when you follow the governor, you're going to be following a better speaker. And he talked about just me, just throwing in the application. I mean, I just mailed in the application as you would do, both electronically and physically. I didn't know anybody, didn't talk to anybody, didn't talk to my local representatives or anything. I just put it in. And then a couple months later, next thing you know, the phone's ringing, and then another interview and another interview. And next thing you know, they said, hey, be here on this day in July, and you're going to be announced with the governor. So it was a bit out of the blue, but it's been an exciting opportunity to really make an impact on state services.
That's awesome. I love that sort of story of how you stumbled into this. I mean, honestly, the DMV has made significant technology transformation changes since you've been at the helm, and congratulations on that. It's difficult to do in government. Can you sort of elaborate on what made you want to make those changes outside of you reading that we all hate the DMV?
Yeah, and again, that was somebody else's headline, and I've actually emailed with the reporter. She's now at KQED, and I heard her on a story, so I reached out to her and said, hey, if it wasn't for you right now, I wouldn't be at the DMV. But look, I think all of us want to do a good job, and we see the opportunities that were in front of us. I saw the challenges that were laid out by the various people that I had interviewed with. I had read numerous stories. I had visited DMVs just to get a sense of things, and I saw opportunity. And then when I arrived, I saw a staff that no team wants to fail. The people are like, hey, put us in the game, help us know what to do, and the team was really, really great. We just needed to sort of hold off some things, prioritize work as we would normally do in our lives, and focus on a couple of key initiatives. Make sure we had, for example, people out a window in a field office, prioritize tasks. And then we needed some technology changes. We needed stabilize systems. There was a long, long list of things that needed to be done, but it just needed someone to step in and to lead it. And I was fortunate, again, had a really good team when I arrived. There was also our chief digital transformation officer, was here just about 30 days before me. And it was just kind of a godsend. You put the staff that was here, you put the chief digital transformation officer, new leadership with me, and the governor saying, hey, go fix this. It was really the right combination of things that allowed us, some running room to go off and make the changes. So, we just took the bull by the horn, so to speak, and the things were obvious, the things that we needed to do, but sometimes you need that outside in perspective to be able to say, okay, how do I attack this? How do I attack lines? How do I use Erlang to model, things that perhaps many of us have learned in the private sector that are somewhat new in the public sector. So those sorts of things I brought in, and again, the team, I think, stepped up and have done a tremendous job of actually, doing what needed to be done and prioritizing and making, the customer journey a success, no matter which channel they arrive in.
So any technological change has its challenges, whether it's the technology or getting things done in state government. What were some of your biggest challenges in these projects, and sort of what keeps you up at night?
Two very different questions. So one of the challenges for me is I just didn't know what I didn't know. So we made some I made some early decisions, not realizing that there's sort of this pecking order at the state. So I think I got on the wrong side of a couple people here and there, but I think we demonstrated that we can make smart choices. We can make very good choices, things that were cost effective for the state and allow us to perform much better. I think about just our network choice of going with, a particular provider that we're going to rip and replace, all of the legacy equipment we had out there to do a software defined network because we could. We quickly evaluated the providers. It turns out that the people in this market were people that I had worked with. I knew several of them, so I had some inside scoop, and then we made, I think, some very quick decisions, which were much faster than I think the government was used to. So I think they were a bit, on their heels, but it was the right thing to do. I think in retrospect, after we sort of smoothed over the feathers, and we use state processes, we bought from the state procurement list, but we just were moving faster than I think that people thought we should move. And then I think people got used to the pace that, hey, in fact, we could innovate, we could procure, we could consume and put to use those particular things. Now, the things that keep me up at night, completely different question. We have aging systems that were developed and engineered probably in the 60s, maybe deployed in the 70s. So my concern is people that are retiring, they're taking their knowledge out of the state because some of the systems are written in assembler, and it's a specialized skill. You don't see a lot of people coming out of university with that skill today. So that's one of the things that keeps me up at night. So one of the first things I did is I worked with my team to say, how do we put on the world's largest systems freeze, right? All of us who've been in IT spaces before have the Christmas freeze, the Thanksgiving freeze, the 4th of July freeze. We said, look, we need a freeze that essentially for anything that is not a mandatory fix, a consumer price index change or whatever, we need to make sure that we do not touch the system just because, well, it might be fun to have this new feature. We said, we're going to have a containment strategy and make sure we minimize risk because those people are walking out the door. The systems are very, very old. And you may make a discretionary change and that system may not come back to life. So that's the stuff that keeps me up at night is people brain drain because people are retiring and these systems are very, very old.
I mean, the focus that the DMV has really had on the customer, I think, and the person that you're serving. And I loved hearing you say, I went to the DMV. It's probably the one place where most Californians are interacting with their government. You've done a ton to improve the online services and online offerings. So can you talk about some of those successes and that have been implemented and sort of the impact that they have on the everyday Californian?
Yeah, so I think we made improvements. I think in a number of fronts. So let's just think about the field office for a second. One part was just helping the field office make sure their systems are available. We have some legacy systems on legacy controllers and yada yada, a whole bunch of stuff there. We had to make sure that those stayed up. We had to make sure that people could be productive. We had to work with the team on making sure we would have a sort of a sequence of events, an order of battle, so to speak, to make sure that they staff Windows first, do this task second, this task third. And we did that across the state because we had 6,000 people out in the field and that had to be orderly. But those 6,000 people are across 180 field offices. And in some ways, and I mean this with love, that there are 180 independently owned offices because people think, well, that's not how we do it here. It's like, well, we need you to be consistent. And you see this, right? When you travel the state and you see other businesses, you can see the ones that are consistent, have a process and a policy, and people adhere to it because they're a best practice. And you see the ones that don't. So the team did a great job there. We had to stabilize our system. We had to bring faster internet. We brought some, basic kind of Erlang type math to make sure they would staff things. Then at the same time, we wanted to start a channel shift. There is, for whatever reason, there's this belief in government that, well, people, California, leading states, Stanford, Berkeley, USC, UCLA, but nobody's on the internet. It's like, what do you mean nobody's on the internet? Everyone is on the internet. So we should give people some credit, allow them to do things online, enable those services so that they work efficiently and effectively. And surprise, surprise, people flock to the services. I mean, when we shut down for COVID, that was the proof point. Our customers did not miss a beat. Those people that were, thought to be a tin can and a string, never on the internet, they flocked to the internet. They renewed their vehicle registration. They did all the things they needed to do because they said, well, I guess the office isn't open. I'll use this other thing. And then, of course, we enabled, a mobile first strategy. So, this is something that most businesses do often is that they don't develop another tool unless it can be used on a mobile device. And we had to break the strategy. Well, we'll build it on the web browser and then we'll get to the mobile. Say, no, we build it for a mobile. If it doesn't work on a mobile, we do not build it. And because we want to be able to tell people, by the way, people that use our website, 60% of them use a mobile device, which is not atypical. It's usually it's usually higher than that. And so we wanted to make sure my team understood that, look, people are going to use a mobile device. So let's make sure everything we do there, especially the high volume tasks, they have to be mobile enabled. And the minute you did that, of course, people flocked to the tools and people could renew registration, do millions of things online that they don't need to visit the field office. So now they visit the field offices when they're stuck as a last resort. And in some cases, if you're in rural parts of the state, maybe it's convenient. You're driving by. But we really want to encourage people to use modern technology. Think about, would you ever drive up to the Amazon warehouse and think you're going to pick up something? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to order it online. You're going to do the things, you're going to wait for it to arrive. So we want to make sure that our processes work just like the rest of society uses online services. And we want them to do it from the comfort of their home and from the comfort of their mobile device.
Well, I mean, this amazing transformation that's happened at DMV, and you've had the privilege of leading it, and you've given credit to your team. How do we make sure this isn't a one and done thing? How do you look at emerging technologies and sort of future proofing what you've done to deliver services for the people?
Well, it's two parts, Russell. One part is we've got to make sure the team embraces the changes we've made. They have to just be part of our DNA. The cultural changes have to stick. That's the stuff that makes sure that it's not a one and done, that the team knows what to do. And I believe they do. Now we got to make sure that they can continue to drive this down in the organization. So I work up and down the organization. I know in some state departments, like the director is more of a figurehead. I'm an operations guy. So I'm reaching down there. I'm talking to a number of people, and we're trying to get those best ideas up, fix things. But we need to make sure that the organization does not snap back if I were to avert my eyes or the governor decides to fire me tomorrow. Whatever it is, we need to make sure the organization sticks there. And then we need the technology foundation. And we're doing that today. One of our largest projects, Digital Experience Platform, DXP is the shorthand. We're rebuilding all of our legacy systems and replacing them on the Salesforce platform. So once we're there, you're going to have, of course, mobile. It'll be a mobile native solution. The solutions that we're building on the platform have to be built for how people do business today. So we're trying to break the back of the form, right? Oh, I got to put this on a form. And you see a form and you do the analysis, like 80% of things on the form are the same 80%, same things. And then there's the one box you have to check. So I'm trying to help the team pass, customers don't want to fill out a form. You don't fill out a form to buy something on Amazon. Maybe you did, 40 years ago in the Sears catalog, but most people don't know what the Sears catalog is because it can't compete with what Amazon's doing. So helping people understand that, the website is the way to go. Customers are willing now. We're very all accustomed to doing our own data entry, from booking a flight to buying something on Amazon. And we want our staff to just realize that that is the way we should do business. And the way that they were working when they left their house in the morning should be the exact way they're working when they arrive at work. And they shouldn't have to think, oh, I'm over here, I need a Reg 227. We have a form called the registration 227, and someone needs to fill that out. No, you don't need that. You just need these three pieces of information on that form, which is name, VIN for a vehicle, and maybe another box. So helping people realize that the way that they live outside of the office can be the way our systems are designed tomorrow, and they can be deployed that way. And customers will embrace that because that's what they do every single day. So my job is to make sure that sticks, the systems work, and that methodology, that mindset that we have to just look around how we do work today. That is how we're going to make sure that we're successful, because we're going to be running with the big dogs that are doing this every single day. And we refuse to be compared to like the best state government service. No, we should be compared to the best of the best. We collect $14 billion in taxes. We have $1.4 billion budget. We should run with the big boys, and we should compare ourselves with the best of the best. We may not live up to that every single moment, but we need to be compared that when you're buying something on Amazon, you're banking at Chase, whatever you're doing, we should be right there with those, and customers say, wow, that was a really good experience. And if it's not a good experience, they should tell us about it, and we should fix it, because we should say, wow, yeah, you're right, that's terrible, let's fix that. It's those combination of things that make the organization stick, and they see that success, and they're going to stay the course. But it's not easy in government. It is not easy.
I hope our listeners get the same sense. Your passion is so authentic, infection. I don't know what role that plays in your leadership, but I'm like ready to run through a brick wall for DMV right now. It's great.
So something that I love that you guys have done is your social media strategy. I think it's probably I would award you the most successful social media strategy that I've seen in among state departments. What was sort of the driver behind that one, and what impacts have you seen?
Yeah, so I guess there's multiple tiers of that, and we started with just a program to get people aware of Real ID, the Real ID deadline, ever shifting. But what that
Mhm.
was, front and center when I arrived. So we started using, various different social media tools to make sure we would drive awareness, and of course we did conventional things. We advertised in paper. I did press, and they always put of course, the prettiest guy on TV, as you can tell. But getting out there to drive that engagement and awareness. So on social media of late, we've now gone to a little more tongue in cheek. We're having a little more fun with our message, and we've got now a character called Callie. Things are play on words here, but just trying to engage people at different levels and different ages and different mediums, so that people can learn about the services, learn how to obtain services, and this is also something very different, that we have a team that's in our Office of Public Affairs. Now, I'm new to government. I didn't know what an Office of Public Affairs did, but I said, hey, you got people that are engaging with the public. Let's give you outbound communications in addition to receiving inbound. And they said, okay, we've never been asked to do that before, but they figured it out and they've done a great job. And they built these characters. They've been very creative. They actually do some of the creative work themselves. And I think they've done a tremendous job of just trying to drive awareness, reach out to different communities. Some are in different languages as well, reach out to different community groups. And they've just done a tremendous job to make people aware of what the DMV is, what we do, how we can do it, how to communicate with us. And we get a lot of great feedback back from them as well about things that we should be considering. And when COVID struck, we had this youth cohort who said, I want to take my driving test. I want to help my family. I need to get a job. I need to be able to drive. And they rallied. There were even these couple of kids that made the newspaper in Marin County that were just like, hey, we want to do this. They were raising awareness on social media. And that reached us because of our team and the outreach they were doing. And it allowed us to understand how we might serve that cohort better. So anyway, I know there's a lot of non-specifics, but we were able to micro-target certain areas where we needed to. We geo-fenced around airports, for example, for Real ID holders. We said, okay, if they're around an airport, we want to message them differently than perhaps if they're sitting up in the northwest or northeast corner of the state. And we also did the same thing for particular ethnic groups, because we wanted to target a message to them, maybe in a native language or one of their periodicals. So there's a number of great things I think the team did extremely well at. I mean, they were learning this because this is not what they had done in the past. But I think they've taken to that like a duck to water, and they really are enjoying it, and they're having fun with it, which I think makes it even more engaging. So it's a combination of those things, and the results have been that we've got really good Real ID adoption. We have like 54% of the state. We're above the state. The state, our competitors, or if you will, our competitors, our peer states. We also have very good usage at the airports. That's what we hear from TSA. So I think it's had its intended effect, and we've also now engaged more people in using our services online, which also is sort of a secondary effect of not having lines at the field office. So all these these outreaches and engagements are all soft science. You don't really know the hard impact until down the road, when that first time driver or when that grandparent working with their grandchild, whatever it might be, until they engage in a certain way. They say, oh yeah, I saw that on social media. I clicked through over here. You don't really know, but we have some hard data to show that we made our targets on Real ID, and it was in large part with the communication we did with our customers.
Well, a lot of our listeners are tech industry people, and one thing we emphasize repeatedly is you need to approach your .gov colleagues in a spirit of partnership. What do you think that looks like for the vendor community? How can the vendor community be a good partner to the DMV?
Yeah, this has been a very tricky question, because we were a bit more technical than other departments, which I think is a bit unusual. And I mean, no disrespect to my peers, but I come from a technology background. I mean, I'm an accountant by training, but I have a I have a technology certification in internet networking, and some of my senior staff are very strong technologists. And so when a supplier comes in and they're pitching something and they know less about that or less about that area than we do, it's a very short meeting, and we're fairly direct with them, because we want people that if we're going to have a partnership, they got to bring something to the table. They have to bring something, often something to the table that we don't know. There are some that are really good, and I'll just call out, our friends at AWS. Right? I mean, they show up, ready for the game every single day. They tell us something we don't know. They tell us something about how we're using their product that we didn't know. They tell us hey, here's where you're overusing our product. You might want to ratchet down this service, and I'll save you 10,000 a month or 100,000 a month. That's pretty unique. So they have earned their place at the partnership table. Some of the other suppliers are still struggling with that, but the bar's high, and we help our suppliers too with root cause analysis. We help them think through this stuff because we're pretty technical. So we like to think that we're accretive to the solution, but we really want people that bring in new ideas, bring in fresh thoughts, but they have to know something. Because when we ask that first technical question and they stumble, then it's like the meeting's over. They have to come back, regroup, and so on. So we just want everyone to be better. We want everyone to be prepared. We come prepared, and we want things to be successful. And we have demonstrated that we can roll out technology in mass at the DMV and make it work and solve real problems. So we want partners that can come in here and bring real solutions to things that we can implement, and we can implement right away. But that means everybody's got to know what they're doing. And sometimes that is not the case.
I love that. Bring your A team if you're going to meet with Director Gordon, for sure. So you're one of the success stories that we've highlighted in government, and unfortunately there are a lot of failures and not as many success stories. But I really want to highlight this, and I want everyone to be able to keep up with what you're working on and where you're going. So what's the best way for citizens and for the industry to sort of stay informed about the latest technologies that you're using and any service updates that you want to point them to?
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple. GovTech covers the space quite well, and so that's one place. If you're selling into government, we do a vendor day, a supplier day. I think we've had one every year that I've been here. This is part of our chief digital transformation officer. This takes advantage of the new procurement capabilities that the state allows us. So we have this vendor day. We pitch 3 or 4 things and problems that we want to solve. We have a wild card strategy, or we accept 2 or 3 ideas that the vendor community think we should solve with, of course, using their products. And it's great because the vendor community has a chance to hear what we're thinking about and how we're thinking about it. We get to hear how they're thinking about things. And it's like Shark Tank, right? It gets down to a big list, it goes to a small list, goes to a small enough list. And those last couple of vendors, they get a pitch, to us about why we should use their solution. And more often than not, we acquire one of their products out of those pitches and we implement it in our system. We have many things that are running today that came out of that vendor day approach. So that's one way that the supplier community can be engaged. And we post that on our website. We advertise through the appropriate procurement mechanisms. And how the general public, we do press releases and so on, but the best thing to do is I would encourage the public, your listeners, I encourage my staff, use our services, especially use the online service, give us feedback. And people can communicate with us. They can write to me. My email address is not hard to figure out. People figure it out every single day. And, people share ideas, especially when things are broken. We take immediate action. Sometimes they are broken and we did not understand that corner case was somehow obstructed. And I ran across one this morning. I was meeting with my team just before this. And I created a corner case. We were testing this new system for our driver safety team. And, but you have to be engaged. You have to use your own products. You have to do that so you can see how things work or don't work. So anyway, those are a couple areas. Of course, I know one of the things that was kind of on the list to discuss is like, are we going to be using generative AI? Well, of course we're going to use that. But, the state has requirements about how we think about that securely and safely step into that market. And we have a couple of proof of concepts. We're working with, the California Department of Technology to make sure we stay within those guidelines. But look, we have to use the best of the best if we want to be the best of the best. So we're going to be exploring all of those things. So we appreciate, the vendors that have ideas that either they can, join us on the vendor day or they can reach out to us periodically. But don't reach out to us periodically and say, oh, geez, I didn't know about vendor day, because 200 or so vendors seem to know about vendor day every year. So if you're that disconnected from the DMV, maybe you're the wrong vendor for us. I don't know, but anyway.
Well, I think you're a unique type of public servant that, frankly, I would love to see more of in government. And what I'm taking away from this really is that you're not striving just to be the best in government. You're striving to be the best of the best. And I absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for making the time today to be with us. And we can't wait to just see where you continue to take this with the success of the DMV.
Well, great, Jen. Thank you so much. And Russell, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure to serve the state and be with you today. Hopefully, we'll be doing more of these down the road. And again, as you see something or use our services, let us know. Especially if things don't work, let us know.